Ms. Legalista here. Welcome to the video. We are going to be talking about Georgia probate judge Christina Peterson, who has now been officially removed by the Georgia Supreme Court. Let me tell you, I pulled up that opinion. It's not finalized, but I pulled up the opinion and it just kept going on and on and on and on. There were all of these counts against her regarding her conduct, just unbecoming a judge, and just violations of some of the things that judges have to follow. Let me tell you, I had someone ask me one time, "Hey, Sheila, do you want to run for judge? Why don't you run for one of our judicial seats? I think you'd be really good." I'm just like, no, 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 no. That is one of those things where you have to make sure that you are on your toes all the time. You really are held to a higher standard. People think about politicians and they say, "Oh, well, we have these expectations of how we expect for people to handle themselves. We want them to be professional. We want them to still, come out in the community and be able to work together with us to make, our city, our town, our county, our states better. And we want you to have a high ethical ruler, your North Star, your values, all of those things people look at and they expect you to be a good person deep down." I'm not saying I'm a good person, not a good person. That's totally not where I'm going here. But what I'm saying is, people make mistakes. And when you're an elected official, your mistakes are usually public. When you're an attorney, sometimes your mistakes are public. And trust me, I have made some big ones. Sometimes I've made some that have just been just like, oh, that person, every time that person sees me now, the person's gonna be like, "I can't believe she did that." But yeah, there have been times when I have dropped the ball. Usually I've been able to fix it and get it back on track. But you are under the microscope. And when you are a judge, you literally hold other people's lives in your hands, whether or not somebody is incarcerated, for how long somebody might be incarcerated. Like, you can't be out here willy-nilly just doing everything at the Red Martini restaurant and lounge. You have to be careful about how you present yourself. You don't just represent you. We talk about Black people sort of being in this position where they have to be concerned about, when I'm out on the street, I'm not just out here looking like me, I'm looking like all the other Black people too, right? And so I understand that. When you're an elected official, people say, that's why people say all politicians are the same. They act the same, they do the same. They're all just in for the power and the greed and the money. There is an expectation that you carry yourself in a certain way. There is. Let's just be honest about it. There is. People elect you because they feel like, number one, not only can you do the job, we know that you have a law degree, we know that you've had it for 10 years. When they're looking at her, they go, okay, maybe she can do a good job. And then they hold you to these really high standards. And here's the thing, you are the one who decided you were going to be in that judicial seat and be held to those kinds of standards. So other people, only put you there because you chose to go there first, which means you accepted the responsibility of being the person who was going to say, "I'm going to hold myself to these judicial standards. That's what I'm going to do. That's why I'm running." And then you go out in the community and there are all of these different things. I know we have this video, and I'm going to show this video. I know we have this video, but the video is only one thing. The video is only one thing. If you read the opinion, I'm telling you, you just scroll down and they get to the point where they say, "Oh, and here are all the other things that we just aren't even going to talk about." So we're like, there's a lot going on here. And sometimes, just because you think you can do a good job, just because you want to run and you want to serve, and that's the seat that you want to be in, it does not mean it is a good fit. That might not be the place for you. You need to do a personal assessment and say, okay, here is what is required of this seat. Here is what is required if I go out and work with the public. Here is what is required in the actual job when I'm sitting in the courtroom. And if you can't do those things, you should not run for that seat. You should not run for that seat. I just don't know that this was a good fit for her. She might have had the mindset to be able to say, this is what I want to do. Great team of people supporting her. But if you cannot carry out the job at the level in which people expect you to, it might be time to look for another job. So that's where we're going to start with this. Let me open up this video so you can take a look at this video. And again, this is the Dashcam that was released a few days ago. And there are actually two videos. This one is from the Dashcam. And this is the short one. There's a much longer one. I'll do another video on that one. And they actually have a transcript up here so that you can see some of this. And I'm actually starting this. Like I said, I'm going to start it not at the beginning, because at the beginning it's not showing a whole lot here. But you can also see over here and follow along the transcript with some of the conversation that's going on. So over on the right is Red Martini Restaurant and Lounge. And you see someone in this car here, and it looks like, and we're going to hear this from the transcript, it looks like they've now arrived after some of this has been going on. And this might be someone she knows is getting back here in this yellow vehicle off to the side, because later they're having some conversation about, did you get my stuff? But here she is being escorted out.
What I don't understand is the guy was punching that girl all over the place. He punched that girl. That dude was punching that girl.
Record, please. Record at please. Are you serious?
That girl was getting slugged by a dude.
Record, Thaddeus, record, please. Please. And he took off my... I said, okay. Did you give them your name? No. Christina Peterson. No. Where's my purse? I got everything. Thank you. What happened, officer? Can you tell me what happened, please?
Man, that dude was slugging that girl, and nobody did anything. Nobody did anything. That dude was slugging that girl.
What? Tiny, you have my purse? I got it. Where's my phone? Is in there? Listen, they disrespected that girl, and they trying to cover it up. If they trying to cover it up, it's fine. It's fine. I didn't do that. He said I punch. I don't punch men. I don't do that. So they tried. They would never have that. Take them. They would never have that. Listen, it doesn't matter. He punched that girl. He did that.
What happened to the other girl? The girl she had the conflict with.
6955 extra. Show me about 16G.
He would never.
Tell mileage 12684.
What happened with the other girl?
Yeah. I don't know.
I didn't see that. I didn't do that. Tiny, answer your phone.
Appreciate you, bro.
Yeah, let me it's a little difficult, like I said, for people to walk into, for anybody, okay, for anybody to walk into a chaotic scene to see that individuals are in a space where it- it's adversarial. The parties are having some physical interactions there. It's verbal ones too, and to figure out what's going on. It simply is not helpful if you're yelling at officers, like, because you raise the energy level in a negative kind of way. It's just sort of, let me tell you what happened. But at this point, we don't see, okay, we just see them coming out. So we don't see in this video the interaction that preceded this. And you walk in, we're walking in now looking at this video, and it's hard to understand what kind of state of mind the parties were in. We know we've read some things, and some of you may have already looked at the other video and can see some of what was going on. But most of us weren't there when the thing that started all of this was going on. We were not there. So if you're in this situation, what do you do? How do you respond? So there's a person here who used to be a former law enforcement officer, and I believe she is retired now. And I have heard her say this. She put it this way. She said, comply and then complain. So do what the officer is telling you to do, as long as it's not something illegal, something like that. She's saying, go ahead and comply with what they're asking you to do. And if what they're doing is something that's wrong, complain afterward. Like, don't elevate what's already a questionable situation, because people don't really know what's going on. Okay. They may think they have some ideas. They've received some information that got called into them. They're showing up, but they're not really sure. They don't know for sure what's going on. And so go ahead and comply while everybody's trying to come up to speed. Do what you're being asked to do. And then if there really is an issue, she says, then you complain. Like, there is a complaint process. There is a justice system. I'm not saying any of this is perfect, but she says that is the way. Number one, you keep yourself from being in a position where you might get hurt, number one, because that's what you don't want to happen. You don't want to get hurt. And number two, having other charges leveled at you because you didn't comply. And so she provides a lot of educational materials to people in the community, especially young people. She does a really good job of reaching out to young people to help them understand how to have interactions with law enforcement. And in this case, here we are looking at what's going on with this probate judge in Georgia. And it sounds like maybe she's never had a course like this to let her know how she needs to interact with law enforcement officials. It's comply and then complain. And you are free to disagree with me on this. But like I said, if there is nothing that the officer is doing wrong, and I'm not saying one way or the other whether or not the officer did anything wrong. This is just a portion of the video that we're following. But there is some question here about what kind of compliance she was engaging in, what level. You're a judicial official. You're the one who decided to be in that seat. You're the one who decided to say, I'm going to hold myself up to a higher ethical standard. You did. And people believed you and got behind you and said, yes, we support you in that role. And so part of that is understanding that when you're out here as just a regular person, you don't have on the role, you are still expected to hold yourself up to that kind of standard. Just because you leave the robe back in your office at the courthouse does not mean that you leave the ethics behind. They go with you everywhere you go, because people still see you as a judge. I know tons of judges, and when I see them out, it's, hey, Judge so-and-so, hey, Judge so-and-so, even when you're just out, that's the way it is. There's an expectation that this person is a person of high character. Now, I want to be clear about something, because this doesn't mean that you don't make mistakes or anything like that, that you never get anything wrong, that you're this perfect person. That's not what I'm talking about. But what I am saying is that other people see you in a certain way, and there is an expectation of professionalism, and it goes beyond just how you act in the courtroom. So the Georgia Supreme Court has said you are out, you are done by. They said this was pretty much a pattern of misconduct that you continue to engage in. And not only conduct that you engage in, but that you have made statements as a judge that we simply believe you were not truthful when you were making them. And so when you're talking to people, here's the thing: when you're in the courtroom, and you see this here, and you've got this whole thing here. When you're in the courtroom, there is something called candor, Candor, that you're supposed to be forthcoming and open and honest, and not try to hide or not try to couch things in a way that may misrepresent something before the court. And yet, the Supreme Court said, we just, some of the stuff we said, we just don't believe you. And I'll give you one prime example. And I'll take this off this in case, I don't think there's any reason for us to continue to look at that. I'll give you one example. So there was this instance where the deputy was supposed to be escorting her to court. And she was concerned that she was going to be late. Well, there's a button that they can push if ever there's trouble in the courtroom. So, for instance, if a fight breaks out, if somebody comes in armed, if there's really something threatening going on, there is a panic button. Well, when her deputy was late, she pushed the panic button. And all of a sudden, you've got all these deputies now concerned, oh my gosh, something is happening. Something is happening. Imagine you're in the courthouse and now you're a deputy and you're worried, are we going to go into lockdown mode? What is going on? You may come into the courtroom armed. You're already armed, but ready to use that sidearm that you have because a judge has pushed the panic button. Do you see how problematic that is? And when she talks about this to, in the record, in the Supreme Court record, when you read it, and she makes it appear as if she doesn't know that that's a panic button. She thought that was just a button. That's what she says. Well, they don't believe her. They don't believe her. And so she's not exhibiting the candor that she expects other people, like attorneys, like me, to walk into the courtroom with. She is not even doing that. And the Supreme Court agrees. They just do not believe her. But the idea that you would push a panic button that could get multiple people hurt is just unbelievable. And like I said, the Supreme Court said, this is not the only instance. There are tons of these instances that we can go through, of things that you have done. It's just a whole pattern. It's just continued, and it goes on and on and on. And we're going to go through some of them here and talk about some of them here. And then we're just going to say at the bottom, there's some more here. There's some more. We're just not going to look at those. I'll see if I can pull some of that up to tell you exactly what it is they say. I'm going to have to put on my glasses for this. Yes. All right. So it says this is not final. Let me show you. Not final until the expiration of this rehearing period. It says here, a pattern of judicial misconduct. And I would highlight it for you, but I don't know where my arrow went. There we go. Here. It says, exhibited a pattern of judicial misconduct while in office. And the hearing panel found that the judge violated multiple rules and that those violations warrant her removal from the bench, not some sort of censure at this point, not a suspension. They say removal from the bench. And then this is where, and I want to scroll down, this is where they start to go through the whole background and analysis here. And then they start to talk about some of these other cases, the handling of a criminal contempt matter, how she violated these rules. And they give examples on these different proceedings, how she allowed other people to come into the courthouse and not go through security, how this was willful misconduct in office. It talks about her conduct toward county personnel, other rules that she violated. Again, willful misconduct. Yeah. So they just go through all of those rules. And like I said, it just goes on and on and on. Just look at this. And look, here's the one that says other alleged violations found by the hearing panel, which we decline to consider, So in addition to the violations of the CJC that we determined above that Judge Peterson committed and for which she may be disciplined, the hearing panel concluded that the director proved by clear and convincing evidence 8 other counts in the formal charges. And then they discuss some of that. And they say no. They say that there is more than enough evidence here to show that it is time for her to be removed from the bench. So go ahead and give the video a thumbs up and don't forget to subscribe. Peace.